the day that we get to start fitting our supercharged Redeye engine. Oh, okay, yep. As a JDM car girl, I feel so American right now. Mopar, big block, Texas Speed, Bill, LS, Dodge, Redeye. Back to the channel and welcome back to our Road to Roadkill Night series with our 1962 Dodge Lancer GT. Since the last video, Nick has made so much progress with this build. Nick has just been in the zone, welding, getting all of our mounts taken care of, and our full exhaust is done as well, and it looks so good. The very first thing that Nick made were the engine mounts, so we didn't have to start from complete scratch. I did get some mounts that were already made for this engine from Holley Performance, and then Nick built mounts that were connected to the frame from there. If you remember, the original setup in this car had a plated motor, so there was sort of a lot to build since there was currently nothing there. Here are our engine mounts. This is the mount that I got from Holley Performance, and then that is what Nick built these plates that are connected onto the rail. This mount has a bushing inside of it, and it just sits right there in between the two plates. So here's this side, and here is this side. Again, we still have to paint them, but he did so good. That engine is not going anywhere. And if you didn't notice, we also have a different pan on the car. In order to make the engine fit in this chassis, we needed to convert our setup from a front sump to a rear sump. So I ordered this Moroso pan to make it rear sump from eBay Motors. It came with a different pickup as well. Our clearance problems were solved just with this. Look how much space now that we have in between here. There's maybe like 2.5 inches. Where the front sump pan that it came with, look how tall that is. That's like taller than my hand, and there was no way. There was no way it was gonna fit in there. This made a huge difference. Dodge Lancer GT is officially Redeye swapped, and that brings us to getting our transmission mounted as well. I do think everyone having a manual 6-speed transmission in all the drag cars is going to make the racing way more intense, way more entertaining. So for that, I'm very much looking forward to it. But this transmission is also a lot bigger than the original one we were planning on putting here. So boom, our transmission was officially mounted as well. And I know I just showed a sneak peek of the exhaust. Nick did such a freaking good job on this exhaust, you guys. I love it. Between making the exhaust and all the modifications he had to do to the headers, which I will get to in a second, Nick has just been non-stop fabricating between that and all of the mounts for over a week now. Luckily, we still had a ton of the oval material left over from the Corvette exhaust. So it goes from here, goes over our transmission mount, back under, and boom, right out the side. This is one of my favorite parts. He was gonna cut it, and I was like, no, it is perfect, just like that. So we have one side coming out, a little peep to the side there, and then we have the other side as well. Engine is mounted, it's fully swapped into the car now. Our transmission as well, our headers had to get modified, but that's done now, and the rest of our exhaust is complete for the car. Who needs the shop when you got a Nick?
I don't know.
Nick is cross-eyed and sunburned from non-stop fabrication and welding.
Yeah, there's definitely, I spent 5 hours just welding like the whole exhaust setup. Just welding, not fabricating it. So there's been tons of welding and fabricating. Basically, then to mount the engine to these pieces, I made these plates that I welded directly to the frame rails to basically mount the engine in place. 1/4-inch thick steel. They also kind of U around the frame rails a bit as well. Everything was very tight fit. The engine, I of course made sure it was center line with the chassis, and of course made sure it was level. And then in the instructions that the Hellcrate comes with, the engine is tilted exactly 2 degrees downward slope. It's a bit of a tight clearance with this engine on the front side of things. Our alternator is very close with fitting and stuff like that. And we had to have the engine sitting in a certain position basically for everything to work. Going to the rear sump pan, plenty of clearance now between this cross member, and it's actually better for drag racing anyways to have a rear sump oil pan.
You're gonna have to swap some studs out to make this work though?
Yeah, just basically a main stud that holds the oil pickup just needs to be moved to a different position. So you basically just swap the two.
And then you're good.
And then you're able to bolt on your oil pickup and put it on your oil pan.
So that brings us to the headers, which that I know is really devastating because when we first put them on, we're like, oh, we're good. We're not gonna have to cut that much.
They were gonna fit really easy, like really, like just kind of like, oh yeah, they fit, no problem. But once I got the engine in place, everything was actually sitting in its final destination. Basically, I figured that the headers do not fit as well as I was hoping.
It can't ever be easy.
No, never.
We got so excited too. We're like, wow, this is
finally. Nope, not quite. Yeah, I had to clearance the firewall quite a bit, the trans tunnel area quite a bit in order for everything to actually fit in place. This car wasn't necessarily designed for this setup. The old headers are actually running on the other side of the frame rail, which would have been more ideal, but we simply just don't have the time to make a custom header to run onto this side. So it was easier. We're just going to modify the trans tunnel area and the floor, basically rebuild that shape to go around and cover it all.
It's just like the Corvette. We're just starting off with the hooker headers and then basically figuring out where you have to modify them.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I didn't have to modify them too much. I reclocked this position a little bit, so I rewelded the actual Y section here, and then I added a pica on each side. But for the most part, I at least didn't have to really custom make like this whole back section of the header like I did on the Corvette. Yeah. Which helps.
And like the Corvette, more ovalness, which is your favorite.
You know, oval is sick. It makes the car sound a little different, but it is very hard to work with compared to a circular pipe. You're not able to critique it in certain directions. It's on the same plane, so you can't just like, this tube can't be like sitting like this and this one like this, because obviously it's not going to work. So you got to keep it all in the same plane, and that's where all the pie cuts come into play.
I like how it goes over the trans mount.
Yeah, it was easiest to use oval. One, I didn't want it to sit too low, you know, using normal round pipe, and just with clearancing, like trying to go above this and stuff, oval was just the easiest. And we already had it. So I just needed the exhaust to not be up here near the cabin area. I was like, let's get it behind the driver. But we don't need to go all the way to the back of the car. Basically, just made it the easiest and just popped it out right out the side here.
And it looks cool.
It does.
Side exit
It's like a look for sure. And it's oval, so that's kind of cool too. Not many people have, you know, oval exhaust in their car. So.
Flexing. Just a little flex out the side.
What else?
A lot's happened in a week.
I know.
Huge development over the past week is that we realized we can't use any of the existing pedal setup from before. So there's this for the inside here. Here's how much like the firewall had to be cut on each side. And the whole pedal situation, we just decided it's gonna be a lot easier to just get a full new pedal set.
Yeah, basically being able to mount it any position that we want. And now that we're having to add in a clutch pedal, having to add in drive-by-wire, those two things make it tricky to use the existing setup that was already there.
Especially with the clutch. The clutch is what, like, the two pedals were right here, and then having to add a clutch pedal, there's the bar that comes here, and it's just every which way it was going to be really annoying. And then even if we did add one, between the clutch pedal being added and then our random drive-by-wire pedal, they were all going to not be in line. Like, it was just going to be really funky and weird.
It's been a very odd, like, driving, like, characteristic to have your feet. So having a pedal assembly that's already all the same, sitting in the right position, and with how just the floor is, we're able to just basically bolt the pedal assembly directly to the floor. It was just going to be a lot easier just to do that.
We're putting in the same 600 series by Tilton into the car that the Corvette has, except this one's going to have the drive-by-wire conversion instead of the drive-by cable. We have one of those coming here from eBay Motors that'll be here very, very soon. That was another development that just means a lot more time is going to be put into making this work.
Yeah, and I'll probably end up just either patching this floor or replacing this whole floor on the driver's side, just because there are all these protrusions for the old brake setup.
Yeah, this is where the masters were, and that's just where the pedals were up there.
Exactly, so it'll probably just be easiest just to completely replace that piece and remake it versus trying to just patch it.
Where the seat is mounted originally, it looks like that'll be fine for me to stay in. With where we put our new pedal assemblies, it'll be right in here. However...
The shifter.
The shifter.
So this
is a little far, but it moves.
Yeah, this is able to rotate basically, so the shifter sits here. This, of course, will also need to be modified. Still a little far, but we might be able to get like a different handle or some different top hat to make it so the shifter sits more towards
We're gonna need a giant angled one. We're gonna add some special features to the whole brake setup that will hopefully give us a competitive advantage over our competitors, which I know they're watching these videos at the moment. So we're not gonna let everything out. We're not gonna tell everyone all of our secrets just yet, but we will be doing some stuff. Oh, this guy.
Oh, that guy. Ice box basically for our supercharger, because the Redeye engine package comes with basically, like, the intercoolers are built into the supercharger. So basically you need to run a cooling system to the supercharger for it to keep cool. We're going to be running this ice box, so basically every other run or something like that we'll be able to fill it up with ice and run cold ice water through it. So that's going to help us keep the IATs quite down, and it'll help improve power and stuff like that. So.
We're going to need a lot of ice. Between this and the nitrous.
And the nitrous,
You can get a whole kit that comes with the pump and everything. The only thing it doesn't have are obviously like the fittings and lines, which will need to be made, but you can get this entire kit off eBay Motors if you guys want to check out the links in the description below to get this same thing. The first views of the Redeye swap Lancer. Wow.
So it fits very similar to the old engine setup. If you compare like where the motor plate mounted, I mean it's basically at the same position. The front of the block matches where the motor plate was mounted before.
True, because it was, it was like right there. It went right through there.
So it's basically in the exact same position. This engine's actually a little bit skinnier, so it's not as close to the firewall. So that helps with some of the clearance for our wiring connectors and little stuff like that in the back. And once the supercharger's on, there's also, it's a little tight in the back of the firewall, so it's kind of positioned right where it needs to be. And then along with where our alternator bolt's on, it's very close, but it does fit right here.
This thing looks good in here.
It does, it looks at home.
So we did send out the snout assembly to High Horse Performance, and they did the pulley swap for us. Now, with our new pulley, we're gonna get more power out of everything between that, nitrous, race fuel, tune, driver mod,
long tube,
you know.
driver mod.
Long tube headers. Ooh, and we do have K&N intake for to put on the car, so coming along.
It's basically, this will be like a full bolt-on setup. Everything that you can just bolt on is on it at this point. We're not going to be doing too many other modifications on the inside of the engine or anything like that.
Or are we?
Or are we?
Competitors watching this. Maybe we are. Maybe we're lying about every single thing that we're telling you right now. So obviously there's still a ton of work to be done, and we're also working with Driveshaft Shop to get a custom drive shaft made for this car, and now that everything is mounted, we can do that. They always prefer that you take measurements with the wheels on and the car at ride height, so we're gonna put the wheels back on and get that measurement for them. Well, it's at ride height-ish. So yeah, it's at ride height.
Okay, got it.
So from
the center of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tail housing the center rear U-joint. Right there.
Is there? 35 and an 1/8 is.
The center.
Yeah.
Okay, so our measurement is 35 and an 1/8, so we're gonna send that off to Driveshaft Shop and then hopefully have it back within a week or so. They're doing us a solid. I'm gonna turn it around really fast. If you guys like what we're doing with our Dodge Lancer GT drag racing car and want to find similar parts for your build, be sure to check out the links in the description to find those parts and more on eBay Motors. Let's ride.